I still remember the exact second the ballroom lights hit those diamonds. Cameron Hale, my fiancé, the man whose face is on the cover of Forbes 3 years running, was down on one knee in front of 400 people. A custom Daytona Rolex, rainbow bezel, $85,000, sparkled on a white silk pillow while blue confetti rained down like the heavens themselves were applauding. Everyone was screaming, "It's a boy." Phones up, live stream going crazy, 8 million people watching in real time. And right under that pillow, tucked inside the little hidden compartment I discovered the night before, was a crisp white envelope with Aria's name written in my handwriting. Inside that envelope were the results that would burn his entire world down in the next 4 minutes. My name is Harper Monroe. I used to be the girl who worked the night shift at a 24-hour sandwich shop just to pay rent. Tonight I'm the woman who's about to prove that money can buy a Rolex. But it can't buy the truth. And the truth? That baby everyone is celebrating isn't his. Let me take you back to the night I found out exactly how disposable I was. Let me take you back to 9 nights before the gender reveal. The night Cameron came home at 2:14 a.m. and the whole fairy tale died on our kitchen floor. I'd spent 6 hours cooking 7 courses, the kind of dinner you only see on those Michelin star waiting lists. Scallops seared in brown butter, truffle risotto, a bottle of 2005 Dom Perignon I'd been saving for the day we finally got a positive pregnancy test. The table looked like something out of a magazine. Candles flickering, roses, me in a silk emerald dress he once said made my eyes look like the ocean. I'd even put on the diamond studs he bought me after our 3rd failed IVF round. Like maybe jewelry could fix the silence that had been growing between us. The elevator dinged. He stepped out looking expensive. Hair perfect. Tom Ford tux loosened just enough to look effortless. But his eyes were glassy. His cheeks flushed with more than just the cold San Francisco air. He smelled like someone else's perfume. Something young, sweet, like cotton candy and money. He didn't even glance at the table. Just dropped his jacket on the marble floor and laughed. Short, sharp, cruel. Still playing house, Harper? I tried to keep my voice soft. It's our 2-year engagement anniversary. Cam, you said you'd be home by 9. He poured himself a scotch. Didn't offer me one. I was closing a $90 million round. You want me to apologize for building the life you live in? I swallowed the hurt. We were supposed to talk about the next IVF cycle. Dr. Lou said. He cut me off with that look. The one that used to make boardrooms fold. You're 34, Harper. 3 miscarriages, 2 failed transfers. The math isn't mathing anymore. He took a long sip. There's someone else. The room went perfectly still. Even the candles seemed to stop breathing. Her name is Aria, he said, like he was reading off a term sheet. She's 24, healthy, and she's 16 weeks pregnant with my son. My knees almost gave out. I gripped the edge of the counter so hard the marble felt cold enough to burn. He kept going, calm, clinical. I'm keeping you, obviously. You're elegant, you photograph well, you know which fork to use at Davos. Aria's exciting, but she's not wife material. You'll stay Mrs. Hale on paper. She'll give me the air. Everyone wins. I whispered, you want me to raise another woman's child while you... No, he laughed again. I want you to smile pretty at events and keep your mouth shut. You should be grateful, Harper. I pulled you out of that sandwich shop. Remember? You were nothing. I made you something. Don't make me remind you how easy it is to put you back. He walked past me like I was furniture, loosened his tie, and disappeared into his office. The door closed with a soft click that sounded exactly like a coffin lid. I stood there for a long time, waiting for the tears, the screaming, the begging I used to do in year 1. But nothing came. Just this strange, icy calm spreading through my chest, like someone had injected me with lidocaine straight to the heart. I looked at the untouched food, the champagne sweating in its little tears onto the linen. Then I walked to the kitchen sink, uncorked the Dom, and poured every last drop down the drain. $6,000 swirling away like it was nothing. Because in that moment, I decided something. If Cameron Hale thought he could reduce me to a placeholder, I was about to show him what a placeholder can do when she stops holding and starts dropping. But to understand how I got here, you need to know how perfectly he broke me first. I wasn't born for this life. I was born in a double-wide trailer in Central California, the kind with plastic over the windows in winter. My mom waitressed doubles at Denny's until the day cancer took her when I was 19. Dad had been gone since I was 7. So I learned early how to stretch $5 into 3 meals and how to smile while I was doing it. At 29 I was still smiling, slinging sandwiches at an all-night joint near the hospital, apron stained with mayo, hair in a messy knot, tips in a coffee can. That's where Cameron Hale found me. He walked in at 3 a.m. wearing a cashmere coat that probably cost more than my rent for a year. Ordered 1 turkey club, sat at the counter, and watched me work for 2 straight hours. When my shift ended, he was still there. He slid a black Amex across the counter and said, "Buy the place. I want to talk to you without the smell of fryer grease." 3 days later, he actually bought the shop. Closed it for renovations, paid everyone's salary for 6 months, and took me to Napa in his Gulfstream just to watch the sunrise. I thought I'd won the universe's biggest lottery. The first year was magic. Private concerts, front row at the Met Gala, weekends in Mystique. He put a ring on my finger the size of a Skittle and told the world I was his future. I quit my job, moved into his Pacific Heights mansion, let his stylist throw out every piece of clothing I owned before age 30. He said, "I want you to shine. Baby, let me take care of the details." The details turned into chains. First it was gentle. "You don't need to work nights anymore. It's bad for your skin." Then my friends became not the right circles. My Instagram went private, then deactivated, to protect our privacy before the IPO. He moved my paycheck into a joint account he controlled, so you don't have to worry your pretty head about money. Every time I pushed back, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "Trust me, I'm building something bigger than both of us." His mother, Victoria Hale, took one look at my chipped manicure the first time we met and smiled like a shark. "Cameron has always needed someone grounded," she said, sipping champagne that cost more than my childhood home. "Just remember, dear, grounded girls stay on the ground unless someone lets them fly." I laughed it off. I was in love. Then came the baby talks. Cameron didn't want a child, he wanted a legacy with a capital L. Spreadsheets, ovulation kits, scheduled sex at 10:15 p.m. on the dot. When the sticks kept coming back negative, he didn't hold me. He sighed, ran numbers, and said, "We'll fix the variable." 3 miscarriages in 18 months. Each time he got quieter, colder. After the last one, he patted my hand and said, "Maybe it's time we look at alternative solutions." I thought he meant adoption. Turns out he meant replacement. By the time I realized the cage door had closed, I didn't even recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. Designer clothes, perfect blowout, empty eyes. The girl who used to make grilled cheese for truckers at 4 a.m. was gone. But here's the thing about cages. When you've been locked in long enough, you learn exactly where every bar is weak. And I was about to start bending metal. Because 9 nights ago, when he told me I should be grateful, something inside me woke up hungry. It started with a blue calendar blocks. Cameron kept our lives synced on one shared Google Calendar. Because transparency breeds efficiency. One Thursday morning I was sipping coffee, half dead from another sleepless night, when I noticed a new entry at 7 p.m. Dinner with The Battery. The Battery is a private club downtown. The kind of place that has a 2-year wait list and a dress code that costs more than most people's rent. He never took me there anymore. I asked, casual as I could, "Big meeting tonight?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "New wellness investment. Kids got 4 million followers. Could be the next Goop." Then he kissed my forehead like I was a golden retriever and left. That night I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m. I opened Instagram on my secret burner account, the one I'd made 6 months ago when I first felt the paranoia creeping in. Searched, The Battery San Francisco recent. 3rd story down. A crystal clear mirror selfie in the ladies' room. A blonde in a white silk slip dress. Tiny bump just starting to show. Caption. "Manifesting our little empire #grateful #Montobi." Reflection in the mirror behind her. A man's hand wearing the exact limited edition Patek Philippe Nautilus Cameron had Flex bragged about closing a Series C to afford. My stomach dropped through the floor. Her name was Aria Voss. 24, 4.2 million followers. Aesthetic. Sunrise yoga. Moon juice crystal grids. Bio used to say, Jax and me against the world. The Jax and me had been deleted 3 months ago. I scrolled like a woman possessed. Found the video she posted 2 weeks earlier. Date night with my mystery man who's changing my whole life. Never showed his face, but at 007 the camera panned past a bottle of 1996 Krug Clos du Mesnil on the table. Same bottle Cameron had surprised me with on my birthday, and then taken back because it needed to age another year. I started a note on my phone titled, Recipe Book. Every weird charge, every late night, every new perfume smell went in there. Within 10 days I had a $14,200 wellness retreat in Tulum for 2, I'd never been invited. A $47 angel investment wired to something called Aria's Angel Fund LLC. A text screenshot he'd left visible one morning. Aria. Tell her whatever you have to. I just want us to be a family. Cameron. Working on an exit strategy. Be patient, baby. But the real gold came the night he passed out on the couch after too much Yamazaki. His phone lit up beside him. Aria. Baby kicked so hard tonight. He already knows daddy's voice. With a 4-second video of her bare belly. His hand clearly visible rubbing it. I stared at that hand that used to hold mine through blood draws and negative tests. Now caressing another woman's stomach. And something inside me clicked off. Not broke. Clicked off. I stopped crying. I started planning. I booked an appointment with the scariest family law attorney in Northern California. Evelyn Roth, Shark and Chanel. I opened a checking account at a tiny credit union in Daly City he'd never looked twice at. I started baking again, 3 a.m. Selling sourdough and cinnamon rolls on a secret Instagram to funnel cash into that account. And I started collecting DNA. Because if Cameron Hale thought he could replace me like an outdated iPhone, I was about to show him what happens when the old model still has all the data. And the data I was about to get would make that Rolex look like a Happy Meal toy. From that night on, I moved like a ghost with a mission. I smiled at breakfast. I asked about his day. I even helped plan the gender reveal he was so proud of. Blue balloons, live string quartet, the whole circus. Inside, I was ice. Day 1. I waited until he left for the gym at 5:45 a.m. Slipped into his bathroom, took the Gillette razor he'd used that morning. Still damp, still holding tiny pieces of his beard. Sealed it in a sterile bag I'd stolen from the fertility clinic months ago. Labeled it, C4/3. Day 2. Aria had a sound bath appointment at the new spa in Nob Hill. I called in a favor from an old sandwich shop regular who now managed the place. Walked in wearing a borrowed uniform, hair in a low bun, no makeup, invisible. Offered Aria a complimentary infused water while she waited. Rosemary mint, her favorite. She drank half the bottle. Handed it back with a sweet little, thank you, babe. I smiled, dropped the bottle into a cooler bag. Labeled it, A4/4. Day 3. Send both samples to my old nursing school friend Maya at a private lab in San Jose. Cash payment, no chain of custody paperwork. Results emailed to a proton mail I created just for this. Maya texted me one emoji when the samples arrived. She knew. Day 4. Cameron came home giddy. Showed me the ultrasound photo. 16 weeks, perfect boy profile. Look, Harper, strong heartbeat, healthy, everything we tried so hard for. I stared at that grainy image and felt nothing. Just nodded and said, he's beautiful. Then I went to the guest room and added the ultrasound to my recipe book. Day 5. Discovered he'd moved another $750 into Aria's fund, this time labeled, Nursery Build Out. I forwarded the PDF to Evelyn Roth with the subject line, Exhibit Q, Dissipation of Community Assets. Day 6. I baked 180 sourdough loaves before dawn. Sold out in 45 minutes on my secret account. Deposited $4,200 cash into my new account. Freedom smelled like yeast and butter. Day 7. Cameron asked why I seemed different, lighter. I told him the fertility meds must finally be leaving my system. He kissed my temple and said, good, keep that energy for the party. Investors are coming, need you glowing. I glowed, all right. Day 8. Maya's email came in at 3:17 a.m. Subject line blank. Attachment. Calderon _diagnostics results 4481.pdf. I sat on the cold bathroom floor in the dark and opened it with shaking fingers. Even though I already knew. Probability of paternity. 0.00%. Cameron Hale is excluded as the biological father. And then the note Maya added in the comment box so it wouldn't be in the official report. Cross-referenced with last year's music festival volunteer DNA drive. 99.97% match to Ajax Rivera, 27. Photographer, Venice Beach. He literally shot Aria's last campaign before she blew up. I laughed out loud in that bathroom. A low, jagged sound I didn't recognize as mine. All this time Cameron thought he was the predator. Turns out he was the mark. I printed 2 copies. One for the envelope. One for me, because I wanted to feel the weight of the truth in my hands. Day 9. I wrapped the gift. A hand-knitted blue cashmere sweater from the tiny shop in Hayes Valley. The one Cameron always said was too sentimental. Folded it like I was tucking in a real baby. Slid the envelope underneath, just thick enough to feel important, thin enough to hide under tissue. Wrote on the front in my neatest cursive. For Aria. The truth your son deserves one day. With love, Harper. I set the box on the console table by the door, right next to my clutch for the party. Cameron walked by, saw it, smirked. Trying to buy brownie points? I smiled the sweetest smile I had left. Something like that. He had no idea he'd just walked past the grenade with the pin already pulled. Tomorrow was the gender reveal. 400 guests. 8 million live viewers. And one little blue sweater that was about to turn his whole world black. Hold your breath with me. Because the next 4 minutes changed everything. I was standing in the kitchen at 3:17 a.m. when the email pinged. The penthouse was dead quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and Cameron's faint snoring down the hall. I sat on the heated marble floor in just his discarded dress shirt. Phone glowing in the dark like a tiny moon. I opened the PDF. First line I saw was the lab header I'd stared at 1,000 times during our own IVF cycles. Second line was the one that stopped my heart. Specimen A, Cameron Hale. Specimen B, fetal sample from Aria Voss. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Conclusion, biological father excluded. I had to read it 3 times before my brain caught up. All those months he'd called me broken. All the times he'd sighed at negative tests like I was a faulty machine. All the money, the humiliation, the legacy speeches. And the joke was on him. I scrolled to Maya's private note at the bottom. PSI ran the fetal markers against the volunteer database from the Santa Cruz Music Festival last summer. 99.97% match to Ajax Rivera, 27. Venice Beach. He was literally the photographer on Aria's Boho Goddess shoot right before she met Cameron. She played them both. I pressed the phone to my chest and laughed until I couldn't breathe. Silent, shaking, tears running down my face, laughter. The kind that hurts in the dark so no one hears you losing your mind. Cameron Hale, the man who vetted every line of code in his company, who bragged he could smell desperation on a pitch deck from 50 feet away. Had been scammed by a 24-year-old influencer with a vision board and good lighting. He'd spent millions, burned our relationship to the ground, and publicly claimed a child that shared exactly none of his DNA. And tomorrow, in front of the entire world that worshipped him, I was going to hand him the receipt. I kissed the screen like it was holy. Then I whispered to the empty kitchen. Happy early Father's Day, Cam. Tomorrow the blue confetti was going to fall like ashes. One more breath? Because the final act is coming. And it's glorious. The morning after the results came in, I woke up before the sun and made Cameron his usual breakfast, egg white frittata with chives. Black coffee, fresh squeezed blood orange juice. He wandered in, hair still wet from the shower, looking confused by the smell of food. You're cooking again? I slid the plate across the island with a soft smile. I figured you need your strength for the party tomorrow. Big day. He studied me for a second, then shrugged and sat down. Good girl, keep this energy. Investors love a united front. I almost laughed in his face. Instead, I kissed his cheek and said, anything for the family. For the next 8 days, I was flawless. I sat in planning meetings nodding while Arya picked out $15,000 worth of blue peonies. I cooed over the custom Rolex he'd had engraved on the back. To our son, love, Daddy. I even helped choose the playlist. Every night I baked sourdough until my hands smelled like yeast and hope. Boxed it up, sold out before 9 a.m. By day 9 I had $28,400 in my secret account and arms that remembered who they belonged to. The morning of the gender reveal I wore the pale blue silk dress he'd picked out. Soft, supportive, not stealing focus. I let the stylist curl my hair into perfect waves. I smiled while Victoria Hale kissed both cheeks and whispered, "You're handling this so well, darling. Most women would have made a scene by now." I answered, sweet as honey. "Oh, Victoria, I'm just getting started." At 11:42 a.m. I carried my silver-wrapped box through the mansion myself. Inside, the tiny cashmere sweater folded like a cloud, tissue paper so thin you could almost see the envelope underneath. I set it on the gift table between a $12 diaper dude bag and a solid gold pacifier from Tiffany. Cameron walked by, squeezed my waist. "Ready to play happy family?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Never been readier." He grinned, thinking he'd won. The ballroom doors opened at noon. 400 of the richest, most image-obsessed people in California poured in under a ceiling dripping with blue balloons. Live stream drones, Vogue photographers, 3 different network morning shows. Arya floated around in custom white lace, bump perfectly round, crown of baby's breath in her hair. Cameron couldn't keep his hands off her. I stood near the back, champagne flute of sparkling water in my hand, counting heartbeats. The moment was coming. The moment the whole world would watch a god fall. One more part. The final 4 minutes that broke the internet, broke his legacy, and gave me my life back. Take a breath with me. The string quartet was playing 1,000 Years. Blue confetti cannons were loaded. 8 million people were watching the livestream. The little viewer count ticking up like a slot machine. Cameron took the stage in a custom linen suit the color of a summer sky. He looked like a king about to claim his heir. "Thank you all for being here on the most important day of my life has ever seen." He started, voice rich, practiced, perfect. "For years I built companies. But today I build a family. Today we welcome the future of the Hale legacy. My son." The crowd roared. Phones up. Victoria dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Investors nodded, already mentally wiring the next $150 million. Then he turned to Arya, glowing under the spotlight like a literal angel. And to the woman who made this possible. He dropped to one knee. The velvet box snapped open. The rainbow bezel Rolex caught every light in the room and threw it back like fireworks. Gasps. Applause that shook the chandeliers. Arya's hands flew to her mouth, tears already falling for the cameras. That was my cue. I walked forward. Not fast, not slow. Heels clicking once, twice, 3 times on the marble. Loud enough that the quartet actually faltered and stopped. Cameron looked up, smile still plastered, but his eyes flickered. "Harper, perfect timing. Come stand with us for the photo." I smiled the softest, sweetest smile I had left. "Actually, I brought a gift too. Arya hasn't opened mine yet." The crowd cooed. Someone shouted, "Let her open it." Arya, riding the high, laughed through her tears. "Oh my God, yes, Harper, you're the sweetest." I handed her the silver box myself. She tore the ribbon like a kid on Christmas. Pulled out the tiny blue cashmere sweater. Held it up for the drones. "Aw, guys, look how cute." Then her fingers brushed the envelope underneath. She froze. I watched every ounce of color drain from her face as she read my handwriting on the front. She knew my cursive. She'd seen it on the save the dates I'd addressed for this very party. Her hands started shaking. Cameron, still on one knee, chuckled for the crowd. "What is it, babe? Another surprise?" Arya couldn't speak. She just unfolded the lab report with trembling fingers. The bold letters at the bottom jumped out like they were written in fire. Biological father excluded. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. And below that, Maya's note. 99.97% match. Jax Rivera, present today as lead photographer. The silence that followed was so complete I swear I heard the Rolex tick. Cameron snatched the paper. His eyes scanned, widened, scanned again. The smile died mid-muscle. He looked at Aria. She was crying now, but not happy tears. Panic tears. He looked at me. I took the microphone from the stunned MC. Congratulations, Cameron. You're going to be a father? Just not to this baby. A ripple went through the room. Phones that had been cheering were now filming straight at his face in 4K. I kept my voice soft, almost kind. You spent 2 years telling me I was broken because I couldn't give you a son. You moved millions of our money to build a nursery for a child you've never even met. You paraded this lie in front of the entire world. I turned to the lead investor, Mr. Chen, who was already standing. Mr. Chen, you might want to ask about the $1.97 million in consulting fees to Aria's angel fund. Pretty sure that violates the fiduciary clause in your term sheet. Chen's face went stone. He looked at his partners, nodded once, and the four of them started walking toward the exit. $1.5 billion in future valuation walking out the door in loafers. Victoria Hale actually screamed, Cameron, before clutching her pearls and fainting into a floral arrangement. Aria was sobbing now, mascara rivers. I didn't mean, he said he'd take care of us. And that's when the universe gave me one final gift. Jax Rivera, the real father, tall, tattoos, camera still around his neck, stepped out from behind the drone station. He'd heard his name over the speakers. He looked at Aria's belly, then at the paper in Cameron's hand, then at me. I gave him the tiniest nod. Welcome to the truth, Jax. Cameron lunged at me, roaring my name, but security was already moving. I reached for my left hand, slid off the $1.2 million engagement ring, and let it fall. It hit the marble with a sound of a gunshot. I leaned close to the microphone one last time. You once told me I should be grateful you lifted me out of nothing. Thank you, Cam. Because today I'm walking out with everything that matters. And you get to keep the Rolex. Blue confetti finally exploded overhead, meant to celebrate a son. But it fell like funeral snow over a dead empire. I turned, walked straight through the parted crowd, past the flashing cameras, past the woman who thought she'd won, past the man who thought he owned me. Outside, California sun hit my face like the first real breath I'd taken in years. I kicked off the heels, got in my beat-up old Civic I'd kept hidden in long-term parking, and drove east, windows down, radio loud. Behind me, the live stream crashed from too many viewers. Twitter broke. And somewhere in Pacific Heights, a billionaire learned that karma doesn't need diamonds. It just needs the truth, delivered at the perfect moment. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been told you're not enough, remember Harper Monroe, the sandwich girl who burned a kingdom down with nothing but a lab report and a smile. You are enough. You always were. The only thing you owe the people who try to dim you is the same thing I gave Cameron Hale. A front row seat to watch you rise. Thank you for letting me tell you my story. I'm okay now. Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm free. See you on the other side of your own fire. Beautiful.